looks suspiciously like our last year. For those of us that were hoping for a fresh start, looks like we need to wait just a little bit longer. This is our town hall meeting, and as most of you know, I'm Marcella Marlowe. I'm the city manager for the city of San Marino, and delighted to be here. It's always my pleasure. We do these town halls once a month, and we do them on a variety of different topics, but for several years now, our January town hall meeting has been dedicated to a state of the city presentation by our generally newly anointed mayor. And so this year is no exception, and we have with us our current mayor who just got sworn in December, Mayor Susan Jakubowski. We are delighted to have her to introduce to you this evening. So she's got a presentation ready to go for you, and she'll walk you through that, and then we'll have some time for any questions that people might have at the end, and we'll go ahead and get those answers for you. But without any further ado, I am delighted to introduce the lady who needs no introduction, which is your mayor and mine, Susan Jakubowski. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good evening and happy 2022 to everybody. I come to you as your third masked mayor, and since I am alone in the room, I will have the liberty of taking my mask off, but we know in groups those are really important these days. I hope there won't be a fourth year of this because, as many of you know, my vice mayor is Steve Talt, and with his meek little voice, a mask would not do him well. So regardless, let this be our last year. I also want to say this is our fifth and final year in this composition as a city council. It has been incredible working with my four colleagues, Dr. Marlowe and the city staff. I think we have accomplished a lot. And I'd like to review the past year and the coming and what we hope for the coming year. So sit back and get settled and we will begin. Thank you. Great. Here is the state of the city. We're going to talk a little bit about us, the financial health of our city, what we've accomplished, and our priorities and ways for you to get involved and stay informed. That last one is very important to me. Thank you. Next. A little bit about our city that you already probably know, but a few surprises perhaps. 3.77 square miles. I always thought we were slightly smaller, so we're bigger than we thought. Those 4,300 homes have stayed pretty consistent. And as many of you know, over the last few years, we have had a drop in residency. There's a smaller number of people living here than there have been, 12,000 residents. And you can see the businesses and city employees. And most of you know this, but some cities choose to contract out their police and fire services. We are so very, very fortunate to be able to have our own. As many of you know, I think it would be fair to call our police and fire concierge services. The things they do for us as residents, as business people, as city workers is really above and beyond the call of duty. And I'll be focusing on some of that in just a minute. Thank you. Let's start with money. This coming year, or the current year's, effective July 1, ending on June 30th, we have a $41 million budget. Now that might sound a little bit large, but actually the $28.5 million is our operating budget. $12.5 million is our capital budget. That's what we use to keep our city beautiful, and I will get into that a little bit further on. Our general fund expenses during the last year was lower than what we had expected. You see on there improved budgeting processes. I'd like to speak about that for a minute. When I first started hanging around City Hall about 6 years or so, the budget process was a pretty protracted event that went over many, many meetings. And I must say, thanks to 3 or 4 people who I'd like to call out, of course, our city manager, our finance director, Paul Chung, Mark Siegfried, who works with Paul, Annie Hahn, our city treasurer, and Ken Udy. We have gotten pretty much down to a template, and it's quite predictable. It's much more streamlined, and we are really zooming along, but with great input as we put our budget together each year. Last year, we ended up with a surplus of 1.6 million, and that was after we removed our capital improvement program money and other post-employment benefits funding that we have to spend. So our reserve remains steady. We have almost $40 million, and I'd like to talk just a bit about how that's invested. We have government bonds, of course, and if you don't know a lot about city government or municipalities, we can't take too much risk. So we have what is called a LAIF fund, LAIF. That's Local Agency Investment Fund, and we join with other governmental agencies and pool our money together. But unfortunately, it's safe, but gives a very low rate of return. We also have some certificates of deposit, and of course, those have a longer term, so money may fluctuate over the years. But one thing I'd like to point out with our cash is that we just have the most wonderful setup with our current banking structure. The money that we keep in our checking account, we get 10 basis points, which is 0.1% over the prime on that money. That is just a great rate of return. And again, Treasurer Hahn, we thank you for finding that wonderful gift for us in these days of low rates of return on money. That may be changing in the coming years, but that is where we are right now. So please know that that almost $40 million is really well invested. Thank you. Pensions. This is a large part of any municipality's budget, and we are no exception. We're extremely fortunate that we're not LA City. The last I saw a year or two ago, I think it was taking up about 53% of their budget. I suspect it could be even higher now. So we have $35 million, which might sound huge, but actually it went up 3.1 million, and it could have been much worse. And the reason being, where you see that term discount rate, that's based on a sort of high rate of return that the state expects, and we often don't get. So sometimes we really get a huge hit. But last year, the earnings were quite good, and the raise was not as significant as it could have been. Where you see OPEB liability, again, that's after employment, other benefits for people who are retired. And that is up. Understandably, insurance goes up. Those kinds of costs continue everywhere, whether you're in the public or private sector. Thank you. What we've accomplished, let's talk about that a little bit. I am so proud of all of our departments, of all of the work that's being done. As you see in this picture, we have our new motorcycle and the newer police car. We have 27 sworn officers currently, and thank heavens, calls for service have been down in the last year. And the one that I love, and thanks to Chief Incontro and his whole team, look at those residential burglaries. They're down 31%. We really have been having a bit of a problem. As many of you know, the City Council has supported the city getting more license plate readers so we can find those bad folk as they go through town. And it's really been effective in getting people off the street who have not been doing what they should be doing in our community. So I'm really pleased with that strategy that was taken. Unfortunately, larceny, that's stealing of our things. And we have a problem in our community. Lock our cars, please, and keep everything out of sight. It's just plain foolish for us to leave anything in plain view in our vehicles because it's too tempting. People walk around town, and this isn't just happening at night. This happens during the day too. So out of sight and they can't steal it. Thank you. Fire. Our police and fire have really been doing a great job in this last year. We have firefighters and paramedics. As you know, both have been very busy. Sadly, COVID continues to be with us. We will touch on that in just a little bit. It is our paramedics who are out there tending to those calls, and we've had some pretty sick people have to go to the hospital over the last year. Those ERs have been very, very crowded. As you know, we've sent strike teams to fires out of the area up north. They have just done an incredible job with that really, really hard work as they lend services to other communities. Again, we're just really pleased. We have had 1,700 total responses, averaging 5 a day. I want to talk about in the city versus out of the city. I'm often asked, why in the world do we have to go into other cities and help them? Pretty simple reason. We're a really small city. We have one fire engine with a backup, and we have what you see as our paramedic vehicle. If we ever had anything disastrous here, and some of you might even remember a fire off of Huntington Drive about 5 years ago that pretty much destroyed a home. I remember counting 14 engines out there. That's why we need to be a good neighbor when we want good neighbors. So it's really, really important that we assist one another. And for no other reason, if our folks, and I say guys, our fire department is totally male, if they are out on a call and we need another emergency vehicle, we know we can get backup from our neighboring cities. So that is a really good thing with our fire. Thank you. Capital improvement program. Don't you admit when you go around our city, we look pretty good for the most part. And it is because we have been keeping, and this is part of the formulations we've had over the last few years, we've really been staying on top of a set aside budget to keep working on capital improvement. And we do have a 5-year plan. So we readjust each year. Your council looks at what the priorities are. And I am very thankful to Director Throne, who heads our Park and Public Works Department, for being the gatekeeper of those projects. It speaks for itself what you see there on our streets. Some of you have also asked, why aren't you doing my street? It's got big holes in it. And I live on one of those streets, and we call it Alligator. It looks just like an alligator's skin. And the reason we're not doing streets like mine, sadly, those roads are too far gone. And that's just going to take a whole tearing out of the street, and it's going to be very expensive. We have taken a very wise approach and started taking those streets that are in better condition, keeping them in better condition, and starting to get a registered plan in place so that in a few more years, all of our streets will be in great shape and our maintenance should go way down on those. When Nicole was assisting in putting this together, we looked at this and we said, what? 1 million square feet? That's impossible. Well, I called Director Throne, and guess what? It's true. We really do a lot of resurfacing of our streets each year. As many of you know, our streets get a lot of traffic. Our main thoroughfares are one thing, but with density increasing, many apps have taken people through our side streets. And it's amazing, some of our north-south streets that you wouldn't think are getting 3,000 or 4,000 cars a day. That is wear and tear. I think our sidewalks keep looking better and better. I love walking in the mornings, and I really feel safe out there because we have many, many old trees, and as they uproot, our Public Works Department really tries staying on top of that. We still have more to do, but that's in the future. Sewage lift station improvements. A tough topic, but here we go. We have about 3 areas in town where the sewage system is below the collection point of the other areas, so it doesn't flow as smoothly. So we literally have to lift it up so that it can move into the collection system, because if we don't, we would have an overflow into our wash, and that would cause a serious problem for pollution in our city. So for example, we have about 700,000 budgeted to be able to work on those improvements. Additionally, we are going to continue to replace our sewage lines throughout the city. As you know, those were put in the early 1900s. And if we don't have an active plan on those, that will take millions over the coming years, they will start to collapse, as we have seen in small segments on occasion. So the water we don't see really collects a lot of our money too. Thank you. Trees. As most of you know, we passed a very detailed tree ordinance, and it is imperative for all residents to be aware of the rules with trees. I won't go over all of them, but I'll pause for a minute here so you can look at this page. As you look, I will remind you that we really do have a beautiful landscape in our city, but you really need to be careful in how you do and don't take care of your own trees. Thank you. Next slide. This has been one of the most fun parts in our city with COVID and all that has been going on. We have worked around in a great way. For the programs that have been live, many of you remember we were back in the last century. You had to do everything with either live registration or mailing in, and when you weren't going to go forward with the program, you got a check refunded to you. We are in the full modern age, and you can register online for everything that you'd like to be involved in. That is really exciting. One of the highlights that we didn't think would occur last year was Trunk or Treat. Those of you who came to Lacey Park were just shocked to see 3,000 other people there for an exciting, safe night to celebrate Halloween. And we have a feeling that will even grow this year. Many of our clubs and groups, and police and city and agencies from the area participated in that. And it was just a huge success. Because we were still with COVID, our community services department became so creative. We had many drive around concepts that you participated in. The egg hunt was fun. We've seen inflatables with the seasons all around town. Light Up San Marino, holiday lights that just really seemed to increase this year. I thank the citizens for greater participation in making our community beautiful. If we couldn't be out and be together the way we used to be, at least we could drive around with our loved ones and take a good look at that. Shamrock Bingo, many delightful senior events were held this year. And the library has really been pivoting to get us to where we need to be with each phase of COVID. And right now, I encourage you to take a good look at the resources that are available online to you. Did you know that there are many, many books, the New York Times, different periodicals? You can just really read your heart away through our city online program, and it's there for you. Passports has been available. As you see our little asterisk there, we have to do those by appointment right now, but we've certainly had a great success with those during the last few years since they had begun. And as I mentioned, we are getting many e-services available. Become more educated, take advantage of these online services. They're there for us. And as I've said earlier, we all are certainly aware, COVID doesn't seem to want to leave anytime soon. Thank you. Next page. How do we do all these things? We have award-winning employees. And again, I'm not going to read this off to you, but I would like to ask you that you please read this. I am so very proud. And at the end of your reading, I'll share a comment with you. I'll give you a minute to take a look at that. Great work. There was a little bit of a quote, but I'd like to talk a little bit more if you had read this. During this year's holiday party for our employees, it was held at the San Marino Center. And it was held there because it was a rainy day. But the nice part for those of us on City Council, we really got to see the employees in a closed environment, maybe because they couldn't escape. And I really enjoyed going around the different tables. And my biggest surprise of the day was when I spoke to those 104 full-time employees that are referenced there. I was really shocked at what I heard. I was ready for anything. And I said, what do you feel about your job? I cannot tell you how many people said they loved their job and they loved working for the city. And when I asked why, the answers varied. I'm treated kindly. I work with great people. I'm respected. That was the real highlight of my day. And even hearing employees give constructive suggestions for their work area, that told me they really cared. And people stay here a long time. I asked that day for employees to stand who had been, you've seen this at other events, who had been here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I was amazed at the number of people who were still standing. That tells us that they are happy here, and we residents of the city really need to appreciate all they are and all they do for us. I think we're just so very fortunate. Thank you. Can you move to the next slide? The coming year. Okay, here we are. I am into my first month as your mayor, and oh my gosh, look at that COVID. It should scare us because I've heard people say, and this is true, Dr. Marlowe and I listen every week to Dr. Barbara Farrar from our county health department give us an update. And she said, predictably, January is going to be bad. And there are the numbers for San Marino. As you can see, as of today, we were pretty close to 1,000 cases. Yes, we know that it doesn't affect the lungs the way that it used to, but here's the one way that it affects all of us as citizens and even as employees. Because it is everywhere, it is impacting our employees, their ability to come to work. This just isn't about them catching COVID. They could have been exposed, they could have friends, family member, and that puts them out of commission in doing their work. The same thing with us. Some people do have compromised health, and that makes our fire department more active. As you know, the hospitals are handling folks with compromised systems. So we really need to stay vigilant. As I said, we've got our masks when we are out in public, or if we're in a group, be sure to wear them. If you stay on top of city issues, you know that we, like many other places, have unfortunately closed down a lot of what we have had planned. I know those of us who are so excited about the Lunar New Year, all of those inside events have to be delayed. everything from City Club, Rotary. We just can't gather in groups right now. And that's why we have Zoom. And we would really love for each of you to continue to participate in all the Zoom events that are offered. Everything will continue as usual. City Council, City Club, Rotary, our different events will be by Zoom. So please, please stay involved. We really want that to be a big part. And January is going to be sort of a safe month for the city. And I'll talk a little bit more about how you can be aware of how we're handling that as we move on. Next slide, please. So the impact of COVID, additional expenses. There has been a huge impact since March of 2020 when we first declared this emergency. And that goes from everything to employee worker comp time to supplies that are police and fire, PPE for our employees. We've really had overtime, as you know, when people are compromised. We just can't stop the city. So our Congress has been aware of that. And as you may have heard, there is an American Rescue Plan. So far the city has received 1.5 million. That might sound like a lot, but you see, we've already had 431,000 in expenses, and we're not talking about lost income either. We've had to close down a lot of our income generating programs, and we've tried very, very hard to keep our staff all employed because they too have family and their own expenses. We will be getting additional money in July 22. Our first thought was, well, gee, we probably won't need that. But as we're facing COVID with such an uncertainty, we most probably will be indeed using that. Our LA County Department of Public Health is one of the best around. As you know, we are the largest county in the country. Considering our numbers, we've been pretty obedient. We've had excellent safety measures in our leadership. And I think that's kept us in the best shape we can be in. And on that page, you can see vaccinatelacounty.com for anybody who would like to either get an initial, a second shot, or a booster. This is the place to go. We have been, by the way, told by LA County Public Health, as we are seeing so many people faced with COVID right now, getting those tests is a real challenge. We know that they're difficult to come by. And if you stay informed, when we do have an update, we will share that with you. But we'll talk a little bit more about the city manager's update as we move along. Next slide, please. What's happening with our residential neighborhoods? This has caused quite a bit of attention. SB 9 and SB 39 have passed and are in effect as of January 1st. SB 9, it was done with good intentions, but I don't think the outcome is exactly as would be expected. So to put it simply, any residential lot in our city, with minimal exceptions, can be split into longitudinally and made into two separate lots, each with two structures, or for simplicity's sake, a duplex on each. Previously, one had to go through either the design review process or, in the case of new construction, the planning commission review process. That is now being set aside, and it is being done ministerially. That means if one goes up to our planning desk counter with an appointment, and right now with COVID, we've got some changes going on there, but you really can get your plans approved without any additional processes within the city. And as you see right there, each lot only needs to be 1,200 square feet. In order to address this, the City Council passed two resolutions last month. SB 35, which was introduced by Scott Wiener, says that we need to have objective design standards, particularly putting R1 residential properties in our commercial communities and neighborhoods. We don't have too many, but we also want to look that this is done with intention and it is a quality job. So we defined what we need to see in those residential building guidelines. And it's important to take a look at that because we want all of our standards to continue while still adhering to the state requirements. Next page. Now, here is a second resolution that was passed by City Council. It sounds pretty long, the Brand Huang Mendoza Tripartisan Land Use Initiative. Basically, this is an attempt to not turn over our local land use zoning control. As of today, the state government has taken it over with the provisions of SB 9, and as I said, splitting lots that for the whole history of our city have been single family homes. This has passed. We are saying that we are supporting as a city this initiative to make its way to the November 22 ballot, which would include a signature campaign because it will take close to 1 million votes to get this on. Unfortunately, our state legislature had tried to pass a constitutional amendment, but that hasn't made a lot of progress over the last year. So the citizens of the state are saying, well, let us take a stab at this. And that's exactly what's going on right now. I know each of you from our community who is watching this is not looking forward to the character of our neighborhoods changing. So if you as an individual would like to pursue this, there is a website on this page that you can either take a shot of or go take a look at. And you will be hearing from many individual citizens in our community really taking up this effort in the coming year for the November ballot. Thank you. Another exciting thing in this coming year, COVID brought some tough times. I heard from people in this community who told me that they weren't being treated respectfully because of who they were. When I ran for city council 4 years ago, there's my campaign theme on this page. We are one San Marino. And today, I believe that more than ever. And your city council has voted to develop a work group to make a statement and put in writing what we want to believe, what we want to be, and what we want to even become as a city. We need to celebrate our similarities and our differences, and this needs to be an intentional effort. Your city council has approved professional facilitation, and we are planning on a short-term work group. We need people like you to apply. If you go on to our city website and you see that DEI task force, look it over, learn a little more about it, and help us become the best version of ourselves. The time is right for us to be doing this. Thank you. Next issue. I've talked with both our police chief and, as I like to say, our boots on the ground, our fire department, our dedicated police officers. And what I am hearing, and I'm sure this is exacerbated by COVID, people are struggling, emotional distress, feeling isolated. As a society, we're hearing about this. We're hearing about depression rates, we're hearing about suicide. We want to be available to give our residents more support. And as you can see, the LA County Board of Supervisors is seeing the seriousness of this picture. And they have directed the Department of Mental Health to develop outreach teams. When we say skilled clinicians, these are people who are licensed to work with people who are having difficult issues and really would benefit from some help. The difference between this and a police call, this is voluntary. And if someone really wants to talk, we are hoping to work in partnership with South Pasadena and Arcadia to address our residents' needs. This is a pilot program. It would require city council approval, but I'm so honored that our city is part of the group starting to look at this. This is an issue that we can't sweep under the rug. It's a normal, natural thing to have become worse with COVID. So let's see what we can do to get resources and education available for our community. More information to follow. Get involved, stay informed. That's what we'd really like to talk about. So an engaged community is an informed community. And we'd like to talk about the DEI task force that will be having applications through the rest of this month. The general plan update. Okay, so we're past due for this. And we have two city council members, Councilmember Shepherd Romey and Councilmember Udi, who are facilitating this. And a general plan is what we want our city to be. It has different elements to it. What we want it to look like, what we want to represent, what we want to grow and going forward, what we may want to change in terms of our goals. We really need those people who like to think and put some good brainstorming time into this group. We really need those citizens to step up for our steering committee. This will be the plan guiding our city going forward. Starting in April, there'll be opportunities to volunteer. We have many boards and commissions in our city, and all of that is also available on our website. Concerns. Let's talk about some kinds of examples. There are ways that you can report in real time what you're observing in the city. If you are walking by a property and maybe the sprinklers have gone haywire and there's water pouring down the street, this is the kind of thing you can report. We all value our weekend quiet time. There should not be vendors using power tools at all on Sundays. Even Saturday hours, we start a little bit later at 9 o'clock. If you see code violations, please do report those. We have a good team that goes out in the city. They're very well trained and they very appropriately handle these things as they're being reported. We track them and we circle through to make sure each of these issues are addressed. You can also use it for reporting eyesores or anything that you feel that the city needs to follow up on. Thank you. Next page. Here is our golden piece, the city manager's weekly briefing. It is my goal in this coming year to get at least 10% more of our residents signed up for this. Where else on a Thursday afternoon can you find out everything that's going on in our city? But most important, in this time of COVID, with the constantly changing rules and suggestions and options, Dr. Marlowe has really followed the county in working with Chief Rueda and running a tight ship. We really want to make sure all residents are in step so that we have the least impact possible from COVID, and you will see that information every Thursday. Additionally, the fun part that I like when I get this each week, each of the departments weighs in. They post pictures of what they've been doing. You see them at work, you see their projects they're taking on, you see the fun activities that are going on. I attended a senior dinner and event this year at Lacey Park. And before it, somebody said, wait a minute, I wasn't invited to this. And everybody else said, well, it's on the weekly briefing. So if you go on Thursday, you can sign up for kids events, senior events, community events, Lacey Park events. There's so much there. There are also surveys, opinions. We really want to know what you feel about issues. So that is perhaps one of the most valuable signups that you see at the bottom of the page there. Every resident should be signed up, and we have it translated into Mandarin each week. So we are just excited that this keeps growing and becoming a really informative newsletter. Thank you. Next one. Here's a fun one. We have great businesses in town, and we have a shop local campaign, and residents were suggested to visit different businesses in town and fill out a bingo card. Well, not only did Lindsay Lytle and Jean Wilhite get bingo, they filled their whole bingo card. And what they said is they really had a lot of fun going inside the businesses and really enjoyed some of the ones they didn't even know about. And there they are with their prizes. So we remind everybody, any chance you get, please support our San Marino businesses. They do their best for us. They want to make it in our city. It's been a tough few years. And any way that we can keep supporting them will be well appreciated. So shop local is a great thing to keep going with. Next slide. And now I move on to questions. So if I cannot answer your questions, I'm happy to refer those to those who may. Do we have any questions presented?
Mayor, you did receive one question about vacant homes, and what are we going to do about those? Would you like to field that question?
Sure, I'd be glad to. As you know, this has been and I will also accept any additional assistance from our team. As you know, this has been a concern for a number of years, and vacant homes in some communities, there has been an attempt to place a fine or a fee that goes beyond a registration fee. There have been challenges in courts, and that may not be the best neighbor way of approaching it. We certainly have reached out to those homes that are vacant. We know we have a lot of them. We also feel the difficulty that it brings for the school district, because those could be kids involved in registration with our schools, attending our schools. And we know that your neighbors are at risk because burglaries are easy to finagle when the house next door is vacant. We have been working on this issue. It's a tough one because of the legal challenges. Dr. Marlowe, would you like to add to that?
Sure, very little though. That was an excellent answer. The only update that I have is that the council did recently direct staff to look again at the issue of what would be involved in a vacancy tax. That is something that would need to go on a ballot to be voted on by the community. And there are, as Mayor indicated, many legal issues associated with it. So we're working with our legal team to see if that's possible. So I would say stay tuned. And Mayor, I think you're welcome to turn to Mr. Neer.
Thank you. Next question.
Dennis, you want to go ahead and unmute? I bet he didn't think we'd call on him this quickly. Dennis, are you there? All right. In the meantime, while Dennis is rejoining us, if you do have questions for Mayor Jakubowski, go ahead and you can put up your little hand emoji, and we will be delighted to call on you. We have probably about 10 minutes left. Dennis, are you back?
No, he didn't come on.
No, he didn't come on. All right, Mr. Ledyard, did you want to chime in? You can go ahead if you'd like.
I'm not a man.
I'm so sorry. Many, many apologies. Ms. Ledyard, I
I'm an
apologize.
old
That's a
lady.
painful assumption. I'm so sorry. The floor is yours.
Yes. No, I wish we could. The problem is there's so many vacant houses and the animals are there and we don't have little children and we really need little children. And I'm almost willing to say, put up a sign, where are the homeless? Why don't they bring their kids and squat on the grounds and put their kids in the schools? I'm not going to do that, obviously, but it's really sad that there's so many vacant houses. And I was talking to a neighbor, we can't figure out the economics of it because they have to pay taxes. I would like them to have to pay more property taxes because I suspect a lot of them are under Proposition 13 and are paying very minimal taxes. But at the same time, I don't know. And my neighborhood has been particularly hard hit. At one point, there were 20% of the houses in the neighborhood that were unoccupied.
You are preaching to the choir. We all like having vibrant neighborhoods. It makes me sad when I speak with residents who've been here longer than I have. I've been here more than 35 years. And even back then, when we did have almost every home filled, yes, there was more of a sense of a neighborhood. As I have walked through the different neighborhoods, I know there are some streets that have a real high number of vacant homes.
Madam Mayor, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but it appears that your background has eaten you. We cannot see your face any longer. There you are. All right, please go on.
Okay, my apologies. I am back again. We join with you in that we feel the difference of many years ago. It felt so much like a real community. As many of you know, there are different block parties that neighborhoods try to hold to try to get together and know one another. It offers a sense of protection. We can certainly continue to try to do those types of things, neighborhood watch. We have to keep working on our sense of community. And even though we may not have it with physical neighbors, I urge you to attend our community things. When I went to Lacey Park for the outdoor dinner that was offered through our community services department, it was so nice to get to talk to neighbors, albeit a few blocks away. But we've got to find new ways to keep connecting. Let's not just make it the house right next door to us, although I certainly concur completely with what you're saying.
I mean, I'm really lucky. My neighbors are lovely. Everybody that I've met in the neighborhood is fabulous. So yeah, but we all sort of say, geez, why aren't there more houses that are occupied? Because this is a great neighborhood.
We just, can't control those things. And I guess that's one of the benefits of living in our democracy. We really have the right to purchase and do whatever we wish as long as we keep it in good condition. I know there have been times when homes that are not being lived in have become a little bit untidy or majorly untidy. And again, that is why we have our code enforcement. We have processes in place, and not living there is not an excuse to let a property fall apart. So we're trying to do the best we can. Maybe we can meet with the school district this year and see if we might be able to develop some strategies together, because on all fronts we suffer.
I have one other thing that I will mention, and that's St. Felicitas. St. Felicitas has gone back to their untidy bad habits of the poor parents lining up at 2 o'clock to pick up the kids at 3. I mean, I don't know what these parents, they may just not want their kids out of the house, but it means that my street is really blocked.
You're talking about the vehicles lining up?
Yeah, they line up way early. I mean, we got them trained to line up at like 5 to 3, pick up their kids and get out. but now they've started to line up really early again. And when I have to go out, and I try my best not to have to go out at about 3 or 2:30, but already their cars are lined up. This is a fairly narrow street. And
Thank you. Maybe that is something either Chief Encontro or one of his folks can check out for us and see what we might be able to affect, because
happens
they,
at 11 in the morning too. I guess they may be on double shift, but I can't imagine people having that much free time to wait hours for their kids. I mean, I had 3 kids. I never waited hours for them.
Well, we can certainly check that out. I know Chief Encontro is here and has made a note of it, and we will certainly check that situation out. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Absolutely. Dennis Neer, have you come back to us yet?
He doesn't know how to unblock.
Oh, he does. I assure you he does. All right, Dennis, are you with us? Going one. Oh, Dennis.
he's unmuted.
Dennis. So close. All right. Well, yes. Hillary Dorsey.
Yeah, I have a question about the new plan to collect food waste. Is there
Yes.
going to be information from Athens coming about that, or bins that we're supposed to use, or will the city be putting out more information?
I will certainly let Director Throne comment on that, but yes, it was effective January 1. So Director Throne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an excellent question. You can use your green waste container to take all of your food waste. That is how Athens is going to be working it. If you need an additional container, you can contact Athens. They should be placing in all of your new waste collection bills, inserts as to the food recovery process. But it is very simple for San Marino. If you have a green waste container, you can throw in your soiled pizza boxes. And if you have a very clean piece of cardboard, you can put that into the regular recycling or into the trash.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I might riff just a little bit on that, since we're going green, I've tried to become a good resident, and I have started creativity here, everybody, and add all of those perishables, eggshells, coffee grinds, tea bags, bread, anything that can be composted can go into that bag. I had some vases with flowers in them. Those got dumped into the bag. So each house should be able to produce quite a bit. And as a separate note, I know some of us have made the trip previously to the Athens Collection Center. I hope they will offer to do it again when the time is right. I have observed the separation. And amazingly, everything that you put in your garbage, Athens does separate out. They remove your cans, they remove lumber, they remove plastic. They have these long lines going, and I've seen bicycles on them, I've seen wood. Then the trucks come in and there is a mile-high mound of grass clippings. So please believe that it really does get separated when it reaches its destination. We just need more in the green pile.
All
Good.
right. That is an excellent question. We do have time for one more question. I just want to, before we get to that, want to thank everybody so much for coming. I do see you, Hillary Dorsey. I'm coming to you. Mayor Jakubowski will be doing a couple of encore presentations this month of the State of the City address. So if you have a question that's not having a chance to get answered here tonight, there are many ways to get that question answered for you. She will be doing a presentation to Rotary this Thursday. I believe that's going Zoom. There will also be a presentation to City Club, I believe, next Tuesday, and I believe that also is going Zoom. We are also in the process of scheduling a day and time to do the presentation at the Chinese Club, where we will have translation into Mandarin available as well. And if you don't want to come here yet another presentation and ask your questions there, you are always welcome to submit a question by phone or by email. If you want to call us at City Hall, don't hesitate. You can ask for the city manager's office and we will get you an answer to your question. If you prefer to email, I know Susan is always delighted to get your email, and that email address is sjakubowski@cityofsanmarino.org, but I am also delighted to get your email. And the easy way to remember that is city manager office@cityofsanmarino.org. And you are welcome to use any of those mechanisms to get to us, and we will get you an answer or find someone who knows the answer. So thank you again for being here tonight. I will do another wrap up after this final question, but just in case you decide to duck out, wanted to put that information out there. And also, we have recorded this session and we will make it available to people to watch again if they want to. So without any further ado, Ms. Dorsey, you are up.
Okay, it's not a question, it's a comment. And Susan, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the citizenry for your leadership.
Oh, thank you.
Your presentation was excellent. And
Thank you.
you have to cover a lot of bases in your job. And I know you work extremely hard to inform yourself and be the best you can be and keep it positive. So good for you. Good for the staff.
Thank
good
you,
for our
Ms.
city
Dorsey.
manager. And I'd like to thank everybody for helping us to have such a great city.
Oh, that is so kind. And as you look around, if you've got the multi-screen focus from your devices and you see those logos behind a number of the people, I can assure you every single one of them that you see works so hard and gives so much to our city. It really makes it a lot easier in serving the city. So thank you, Ms. Dorsey. I really appreciate your words, and I know the staff does too.
Well, I could not have planned that better myself, and I promise you I did not. Thank you very much, Hillary. That's very kind. And the mayor is doing an excellent job. We are all very impressed with your presentation. I know you were a little nervous, Mayor, but you did great. That was fantastic. Thank you to all of you who joined us tonight. Oh, you got a thumbs up from Sean. That's pretty good. I know. This is a record-breaking crowd for our State of the City, so we really appreciate it. Again, if you have any further questions or comments that did not get addressed, please don't hesitate to reach out to us again. But we appreciate your time tonight. Reach out to us via email, citymanageroffice@cityofsanmarino.org, sjakubowski@cityofsanmarino.org. Give us a call or join us this Thursday at Rotary, next Tuesday at City Club, or when we publish the event at the Chinese Club. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Thank you very much, Mayor Jakubowski, for an excellent presentation. And we will see you all again next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.